So about the Google thing, for users that are actively using IMAP and Campus Exchange, like using IMAP as an archive, will both sets of data be moved to their Google mailbox?
Part of our, I think that got recorded, right? So I'm not going to repeat. The part of the plan will be on an individual basis. People will be having sort of what we call a migration assistant, where you'll be asked that question: would you like one, both, or none of those systems to be migrated? The feedback we got from students, for example, is they don't want their stuff migrated automatically from us. And so our approach is to give them blank accounts and let them do their migrations themselves. Some of you may want to do the same thing, but we'll give you that choice.
And then one other thing, and I mentioned this when Laura was talking earlier about the free busy, and Laura had mentioned that it was looked at between the health system and Google was the sharing of calendar, but it was in terms of looking at the content of the calendar, the calendar entry, and that the health system didn't really want to collaborate because there could be patient information in a calendar entry. But are you looking at just the free busy and just even, it doesn't even have to have the subject, just a blue line. That's all we need. Because we're at the point right now, just to make you understand, we have half of our users on campus and half are at the health system. And if there is no sharing of free busy, we have to move everybody to the health system because we have to be able to do that within our unit.
So there are, from free busy between these two systems, because we are going to have two systems, and that's, ideally we'd have one, but there will be barriers. I do believe we'll have some access to free busy. I don't want to commit exactly what you'll be able to see, and I can't say that it's just with the generically provided tools. It might be that you would use an extra tool to do that. But if you follow up with me afterwards, I can get you more specific data about that. But I think you'll be able to see some, but it won't be as nice as if the systems were shared more closely.
Any other questions?
Hi. So this may be a question for the collective brain of the panel, but so we're getting some idea of what's going to be available in Google, and you've all talked about important pieces of good collaboration. How far do you think we'll get with the Google tools, and what is critical for us to build on top of that? Just sort of a best guess if you're trying to guide us to something that's a more common platform.
Okay. I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that. I'm not really an expert on Google tools. I know that, I've used the Google Docs and other tools in their arsenal. I know that they have limitations, like the tool that we saw today for synchronous collaboration. The limit is, 10 participants. We frequently have classes that are much larger than that. So there you go. There's already a hurdle to go through. But, these things constantly evolve. So it's really difficult to predict whether 2, 3, 5 years from now, something completely different will emerge from the Google platform, and we will be able to replace our existing tools with that. But right now, I don't see this on the immediate horizon. We tried last year to move to Adobe Connect at the School of Public Health for our distance learning courses, but that was met with quite a bit of resistance from faculty and students. So we went back to using Centra, and I don't know.
Anybody else? Yeah.
I'm not a tour expert either, but I'm continuing talking about the social part of that. Definitely when you collaborate with the Chinese researchers, you can't use Google because Google is very unstable in China, and Google Doc is not. I couldn't use Google Doc when I was there, and I don't think that you can use Google Plus either. Yeah, that's my answer.
Good to know.
So, we talk about Google's arrival on campus, but Google's already here. Google Docs is used pervasively across the university. Gmail is used by lots of faculty and students, as much as we would like to ignore that. Same with Google Calendars. The exciting thing that I see with the Google rollout is identity management. instead of having multiple aliases. I think that that's going to, remove a lot of friction for using these tools with the rest of the U of M services. But there's still going to be a lot that we need to do on top of the Google tools, and they're really, really good for a lot of these sort of informal, small collaborations. But as Vlad mentioned, once we get into running courses or trying to do sort of these, high-stakes collaborations where we need immersion and, high-quality video conferencing for trust, a lot of these areas we're still going to need tools. The thing that we really need are sort of the work that Erong's been doing in terms of the analysis of really understanding how we merge the social and behavioral practices and the project management practices with these tools to build valuable collaborations. Some of the focus of the sustainability work that we're doing is not just to understand that video conferencing is more energy efficient than air travel, which we know, everybody knows that. But what we don't know are comprehensive strategies for using a lot of tools in concert that let us make meaningful substitutions outside of disruptive forcing events like volcanoes exploding and disrupting air travel networks. And so, the number one thing I think we need is sort of that sort of behavioral and social analysis of how we can better support collaboration and how we can bring these tools together into ecosystems of collaboration practices.
One really quick addition. I think the fact that Google is extensible and you can build on top of it may offer some interesting ideas and opportunities in the future as we tie this stuff together as well.
I want to add one quick thing, and I echo Eric's points. We need to understand the social behavior. And also, when we start new tools, we need to understand what we should let people know they are not supposed to. For example, the physicians should not forward their email to Gmail because it's violating the HIPAA policy. But I said this because at one presentation, we heard that a physician was transferring, his email, his or her, I forgot, to Gmail, and people were shocked to hear that, Mm-hmm.
I'd like to add one more comment, sorry, but that's important for me personally, because what I fear is that with the Google tools coming on, we will defer in engaging in or investing in innovative technology, kind of waiting for Google to take care of that at some point. And that would be a mistake, I think, rather than asking, will Google bring the tools that we're currently using? Can we make those tools more widely available? Can we expand the usage of Central or Adobe Connect so that other people can take advantage of it? And that would be kind of my plug.
I wanted to follow up on Vlad's comment too, because I agree so strongly with it. Just a couple of comments. When we talk about Next Gen Michigan and this idea of rationalizing, we're not talking about getting to one thing in any part of the architecture. And so, each of these tools has a place. Now, it would be nice if when I showed that heat map and that we had, 84 collaboration services, well, if we could get to 10, and then, so that you could choose from the one that best meets the needs for what you're trying to do. Because there won't be one. We're too big and complex, and there will not be a single tool that meets everybody's needs. The second thing is we're really trying to encourage use and development of what you might call edge technologies in the units. And then if we could get really good at, actually it was the thing that excited me about the Gerhard's speech about NanoHub and the way that it started as a project and then now has moved to this whole ecosystem. We want to figure out how to do that so that as something that's tried out in a unit starts picking up and getting adopted, we want to be able to move it quickly to the infrastructure and make it available to the whole university. And we haven't been very good at that in the past.
Any other questions? Well, I'll ask a question since we have a couple more minutes left. in terms of what Eric mentioned, identity management and the sort of integration of having all of our stuff in one place, essentially. If you already have a Google account, as you said, many of us do, how does that get integrated to the larger picture of having then a university Google account?
So maybe let me describe a little bit what he meant, and then I'll come back and answer yours. I think one of the things we're going to do is we have M Community, which is our directory. You may or may not have used that, but you can create groups and things like that. If you ever have mail groups, you actually may create a mail group for this conference. I don't know, but there's all of those groups will be integrated with Google. So when you go to Google, you'll see them there, and you'll be able to permit files to those groups. And so that kind of integration and just knowing that Bill W is there changes how you might work with me. Today, my personal Google account is billrowe@gmail.com. That will still exist. That's my own personal account. But now I'm going to have a billw@umich.edu, which will be Google. And so if you have a personal account, it's not going to go away. You could choose to shut it down if you'd like, but it will still be there. There is one exception. There is a small subset of somewhere between 2,000 to 5,000 people who have an @umich.edu account on Google. I don't want to go into the details of that, but some of you do. There is a couple little jumps we have to do as part of the migration for them, but that's a small subset. For the majority of people, they'll keep their old Google if they like, and they'll get a new one which will be branded as umich.edu.
Thanks. I do want to make one quick comment. I am very concerned that you're hearing there are only 20 people that might fall under ITAR. I identified close to 100. So there's clearly a problem.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, we heard 200 when we talked directly to folks like you in engineering, but then we talked to some of the leadership, they all said 20. So it was sort of there's a disconnect. So we've been using 200 as our number, but it was interesting when we talked to the vice president for research area, for example, they thought that number was much less. But we understand that it's somewhere between 20 to 200, let's put it that. And it may be more because primarily we were looking at engineering, and we have some more conversations with LS&A, and we think there are a few more in LS&A.
I've also heard UMTRI, Transportation Research Institute.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all for coming today.